heck did that happen?
The World of Tanks Championship International is the biggest event in World of Tanks. Last year's champion, Hit and Run, won 69,000 USD. And not only that, you get a fully paid trip to China. However, due to being the smallest region in World of Tanks, Asia only gets to send one team. And today, we're going to see how Lord Junroy, the most aggressive Asian team, will fare against the best of the server. Special thank you to the Napalmer for streaming the event and allowing me to make this video.
But we're just about to get started into our first match here.
LJR is a team from Thailand, and what's crazy is that 2 of their players have never even played any formal tournament. In fact, the team itself has never ever won anything. As you can see, they're up against BENCH, a crazy team filled with superstars. Previously, BENCH has even won a tournament in NA against household names Burbology, and containing players such as Ponsky and Aliopasta, big names in the Asia scene. Let's see now what our aggressive team can do.
Wairun in the IS-7 AAA, once again in that medium tank. We saw them yesterday, putting in a lot of work. Astronomical in the 430U. The V4 from Nasarut. King of Cat leading the T110E4 charge. And once again, same as yesterday, we see LJR really committing all of their forces to one side of the map. They really did favour the cap on Himmelsdorf yesterday, and that looks to be the case for them today. They're putting a 430U and IS-7 straight on the cap in the opening 30 seconds of this match.
The strategy that LJR likes to use is that they would pressure the cap, which forces the enemies to come at them, because if they don't come, then LJR will just win. Of course, there are mechanics such as RD strikes that can be used to reset cap from far distance, but at some point that will run out and the team will be forced to push in, which is where LJR really likes to do damage.
Tanakorn will be able to peek here if he's not careful, but 20 seconds on the cap timer. We're going to have to see something from BENCH here sooner rather than later. They do have that artillery zone, but they probably can't rely on it. Hasaka here in the 5A, hull down, trying to get cheeky shots where he can.
As you can see, LJR was seconds away from winning the game, but they got reset by the artillery strike. But now, BENCH doesn't have any more, so they will have to push in.
35 seconds on it, but a good shot there from Pasta. Bleeding heavily returner is in a bit of an awkward situation here because he has to pull back completely to avoid more damage.
There's a lot of individual skill on BENCH, and you can see that just now with so much damage being taken.
All 3. This is going to have to start pressuring BENCH to make a couple of aggressive plays, and Tanakorn's having none of this there. Starting to push up in the T110E4, Pasta under some heavy pressure.
You can see what happened to the mouse there. 1 shot of reset and he took 3 shots in return. Now BENCH are forced to push in, which is exactly what LJR likes to do. Look at all of this damage.
Making his way through there, and he'll have his hit points back relatively shortly. But so far, despite Pasta taking a lot of damage and Hector taking a lot of damage, LJR are unable to translate that into a cap victory. In fact, they've actually lost AAA in the process.
But now here it is. LJR doesn't think that they can cap, so they can push now. BENCH are in kind of weird positions because they were forced to reset, and now this is an advantage that LJR has. Remember, cap isn't only to win, it's also a tool to draw your enemies out.
Not going to be able to do it. Yes, he does. He slides it right underneath the IS-7. Great stuff there. And the heal from the FLIPPIN is now able to make sure that he's not going to be punished as heavily from that T110E4. It's a very close fight here. Arc Royale able to get some sniping shots from the hill. Ponsky's T110E4 has just arrived on the cap circle, but Elite unfortunately doesn't get around the corner quite quick enough. The hit point advantage still favouring BENCH, but the T110E4's still relatively healthy, all things considered. King of Cat on LJR down to a 1-shot, and will definitely be prey for Arc Royale, who has just dropped off the hill and is now securing that artillery zone. As soon as King of Cat is spotted, he will be taken out by that artillery strike, which should level the active tanks on both teams to 3 apiece.
And now it's an endgame where LJR has less HP, but they have more guns and they can coordinate. It's about individual play now. How much damage can you do to the opponent without them shooting you back? A great show there to bleed the E4 for a lot of the HP.
Need to see that Hurricane really getting into the fight, but he's actually flanked around the south of the map here, looking for some crossfire. IS-7 now on the cap, forcing Ponsky back. He can't peek. Tanakorn's going to be a threat for him as well. Arc Royale spotted on the cross. IS-7 looking for some cheeky shots where he can, but unable to do so. Astronomical in a great position here, just picked up the artillery zone, is denying the ability of the CS-63 or the Hurricane to get any crossfire, but look at this, here comes Tanakorn around the back, Ponsky in some serious trouble. That's another tank taken out for bench. LJR finally losing a tank to the artillery strike from the Hurricane. Very awkward endgame here. T110E4 will be the priority target. IS-7 430U approaching rapidly. That damage mitigation ability is not going to last too much longer. Can the E4 finish off the kill? No, it'll actually be the Hurricane's artillery strike. It's leveled down to 2 apiece. Can the E4 get another shot in before he dies? Yes, he can. The IS-7 will finish him off though. Arc Royale able to level the score, taking out King of Cat. Now a 1 versus 1. IS-7 versus Hurricane. But the Hurricane overextends. The IS-7 able to easily get a shot there. LJR on a narrow margin, picking up the point here for the first game on Himmelsdorf.
Now it's time for game 2. A great start for LJR, and will they stick with their identity? Let's see.
Astronomical still with that 430U, return it with the IS-7. Pretty standard in terms of what we see from LJR. In fact, they're even doing exactly the same strategy. AAA in a usual position, and we're seeing this aggression coming out from LJR. Can we get a bit of bleed onto them this time, folks? That's the question. Pastor looking to intercept onto the cap circle with the IS-4. IS-7 over peaks, takes a shot for his trouble. That's a big hit going into the T110E4 of Hasaka. Hurricane of Arc Royales now patrolling the Banana Road. We're seeing the 1 versus 1 of the 268 V4s here on the 1 line. Looking to try and get some supporting fire and some cross shots in. Pastor under heavy pressure here from both the 430U and the IS-7. Bench is really going to have to try and punish them from peeking, which they have done so. But Pastor is the linchpin. He has to stay alive and keep these resets coming. Arc Royale is actually going up the hill now looking for some better shots. 20 seconds left on the cap here. Ponsky under pressure from King of Cat now in the T110E4, but King of Cat's also lost a bit of hit points. Great artillery strike coming in there on the cap zone. AAA so far unable to do any significant damage. Tanakorn taking a shot at the hill. Returner now down to a 1-shot. Astronomical also low hit points. Incoming artillery strike. This is bad for LJR. That's an IS-7 dead on the cap circle. And Astronomical is now down to a 2-shot for Pastor. King of Cat is unable to deny Pastor from peeking here, so it's going to have to be Tanakorn to do that. Wyron trying to make a cheeky flank here to deny that as well, but Ponsky's having none of that. Easy shots there into the T110E4, and we've got Hector and Hasaka here in the back lines putting some cheeky shots into the side armor. LJR bleeding a lot of hit points here trying to take out Pastor, and at some point they have to give up on the cap here and start looking for some picks, and that's exactly what they're doing. Hasaka is, sorry, not Hasaka. Ponsky is under attack here from the 268 V4, and look at that, the push taking Ponsky out of position enables the E4 to get a shot, and that's a great pick there. Well done to LJR for taking out a key tank in that engagement. That's now opened the door for LJR to start pushing on to Pastor. It's going to be up to the T110E4 as a bench to get some side shots in. 430U from bench is now rotating into position. He smells a lot of damage potential. Hector is going to have to get his tank into the fight. All the hit points in the back lines. Pastor taken out. LJR down on hit points, but up on the number of tanks. So many low hit point tanks too. And Arc Royale's Hurricane has been taken out in the process as well. So that means no more artillery strikes. It's going to be up to Bench to take out the low hit points. And it's probably going to be the 430U that has to do that. Natawat taken out finally. We are seeing a lot of cap pressure here. 20 seconds on the cap. AAA looking for that artillery strike. He's going to need it if he wants to get some picks onto Hasaka here. Hector finally moving around, looking for the blood. He wants to see King of Cat taken out. That's a lot of low hit point tanks side by side. Elite sneaks out the shot on Wairu. Hector now moving in for King of Cat. Both tanks have got their damage mitigation ability active, but Hector has got the hit points. He knows he can engage if he wants to. Elite is pressuring hard onto Astronomical. Astronomical, not long for this world. Can Elite slide the shot in? He's struggling. The corpse of the IS-7 blocking Astronomical. It's going to actually be Hector to take out the target there. Hasaka pressuring the T110E4. AAA completely out of the fight. So that means Tanakorn now taken out. 430U now in a duel with AAA, but Bench has well and truly won the 2-3 line, and that's all said and done. Bench now putting a point back on the board.
Bench showed their quality and showed us what they can do. An amazing play in order to get that first kill easily and just be really good at finishing the rest of the game. Now it's time for the next match. In Murovanka, a different map, not a city map, an open map, but you can still go pretty aggressive with it. Let's see what LJR does.
See FLIPPIN from Natawat coming out at the last second. Bench actually taking a leaf out of LJR's book, committing most of their tanks straight to the 2-3 line. Seems like both teams are actually opting for this. LJR in a bit of an unusual maneuver, are taking their FLIPPIN and the Object 430U to the center of the map, and it'll be an absolute brawl here on the cap circle. Look at this! Rams coming out from both teams. Pastor going to be the focus fire target for LJR, but this Bliska could be problematic for LJR. They're going to have to try and focus him out first, and they've realized the threat. In comes Hasaka's Centurion Action X. Second Bliska coming out from Hector. This is a huge amount of damage going into LJR. Still unable to take out Ponsky, finally going down. But so much damage. Tanakorn now down to a one-shot. It's forced Astronomical's Bliska in. Incoming artillery strikes. 2 tanks just died for Bench. And it's now coming down to a knife fight between both teams. Astronomical's Bliska taken out. Wairu now the focus fire of 3 of Bench's tanks. AAA once again unable to contribute his hit points to the fight, has been firing off reload, but it doesn't seem to be doing much. Natawat's FLIPPIN trying to get the clip out, but Wairu is blocking mostly here, so Natawat's actually becoming a bit more of a threat for his own team than for the enemy. And an absolutely quick and nasty game. Bench completely shutting down LJR in a matter of 2 minutes. What a great fight there.
And there we just see the pure quality of Bench there. How they're able to just take the positions, be able to just figure out who to kill first, who's the easiest kill, who to focus fire. That's what won them the game there. And we can see that just playing aggressive sometimes isn't enough. You really need to be able to just get the right positions, shoot the right targets, and make the kills that matter. Now, what does LJR do once they know that they've been beaten on their own game? LJR decides to bring a light tank, an RHM Panzerwagen. That means that they cannot really brawl because of the loss of DPM and armor and HP. So they cannot just win an all-out brawl.
But the elephant in the room is that K91. What the heck are they planning with a K91? That tank is a sniper. It's got great DPM. What are they planning? Well, you can clearly see they're not going for that cap circle anymore. In fact, it clearly didn't work for them last time. So they're chasing a bit more of a play into the Magic Forest. Bench already committing tanks to the cap circle. They realise there's not much resistance in front of them. In fact, they're actually pushing up. This could be problematic though. AAA has got that A line. Pasta could be biting off more than he anticipated here, especially as he peeks the ridgeline into 3 enemy vehicles.
That's great play from LJR to bleed that much damage on the BZ.
Seeing a knife fight here between Elite and Natawat, BZ75 versus Object 430U, Hasaka trying to support where he can.
Now it's about the individual play. It's about how can each player make little micro decisions that really help the team. Where can the damage be done? What position should I take? And this is something that Bench is good at, but right now, with the lineups that they have, LJR is better equipped for it. The light tank can rotate, the medium tank can also give DPM support when there's not a big brawl, and let's see if now LJR can beat Bench in their own game.
He is relatively isolated and is putting a couple of punishing shots into him, forcing him back. Bench, meanwhile, has rotated fully back to the cap, but this 430U, folks, that's a very dangerous position. I'm a little concerned for his well-being. Meanwhile, cheeky, sneaky plays from the CS63, shot there into Elite. Not a lot of hit points left for him. Hector and the Bliskavitska rotating into the mid here, but that K91 putting some punishing shots into him. Natty forced to rotate back. BZ75 taking shots as well. Cap pressure from Bench seems to not be too much of a threat for LJR. 12 seconds on the cap. They probably are going to get that artillery zone. In fact, they're banking on it, I would assume. Hector's going to need to deny that, but unfortunately he doesn't get there quick enough. They will probably drop the artillery zone, and they do get a cheeky reset as well. Ponsky realizes the problem. He does get on the cap circle, but the artillery strike is waiting for him. LJR already pressuring the 4-5 line. Ponsky realizes he has to pressure the 1 line in response and take out AAA. Arc Royale turned his turret, getting ready to hit AAA. Tanakorn taking out Hector. That Bliskavitska isolated in the middle is not long for this world. Pasta also taken out. Tanks dropping like flies for the team off Bench. LJR holding strong. The early gamble from Bench not paying off, and LJR are more than happy to respond. Hasaka now the priority target for King of Cat. Ponsky pressuring the IS-7, but taking heavy punishment for it. Arc Royale, the only surviving tank in this fight here, is about to be in a 1 versus 5 situation. He's not long for this world, folks. The score is level 2 apiece. We've got a competition on our hands.
2-2 in a best of 9 series. 3 games to go and 2 games in each map. Well, what's the next map? If you do really well, you could be 4-2 up and at game point. Ah, Studzianski. This is great for playing aggressively. Let's see what LJR can do.
But still some good early intel that Bench will be committing quite heavily towards that cap circle. Now the interesting thing to point out from the lineup of Bench is they do have Liwi in the FLIPPIN. Now he did try to go for that intel zone quite early, but he gets spotted out. But despite getting spotted out and taking that hit, he actually gets to heal back most of it. So that's not a terrible trade there. For a little bit of information on LJR's lineup. Arc Royale making some flanks around the JK line. LJR very hesitant to push up onto the cap, but it looks like they are going for their typical Unga Bunga of the double mouse with the triple E4 behind it.
The Unga Bunga team finally pushes in after waiting for all of their tanks to get ready. Their team is tighter than Bench, and Bench will need to reset the cap. The angles are quite hard to get in Studzianski, so they will need to come in and force the brawl, which is exactly what LJR wants to do.
Ditch off the middle of the map and taking some fire from the mouse. Ramatul Panzerwagen moving to engage as well. That triple cap pressure from LJR. The only response to that is going to have to be an artillery strike, and how the heck is Bench going to get one of them? Well, they are going for it on the A line, but I don't think they're going to get it quick enough, so it's going to have to be Ponsky getting a miracle reset. 1 second on the cap timer. It's not going to... Ooh, it just happened at the very last second. It's still very close, and I don't think they're going to touch in time. Yes, they did get it. Bench got absolutely clowned on here. LJR picking up the weirdest victory I have seen here. They got the cap out on Studzianki, and LJR were just not anticipating it was actually going to happen.
You can see here the trickiness of Studzianski, where the mouse and the E3 couldn't get reset at all. Well played by LJR.
So clearly they are looking to try and encourage that aggression. LJR, double mouse, double CS, Centurion AX, E50M, Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. Both teams very unusual lineups. LJR very, very light. Centurion AX gets the intel zone, basically uncontested. Great stuff there by LJR. But look at this, they're actually committing most of their tanks to the south. And this time, it's Bench who is committing onto that cap circle with the triple T110E4. Now the curious thing here is the positioning on the cap circle is slightly different. Pasta is sitting further back and actually cops a shot for his trouble, so he's forced to rotate forwards.
So now we see a very interesting dynamic. It's literally the opposite situation as the last game, with the same side as well. Bench, starting from the east, attacking the cap. And now LJR has to break their own Unga Bunga strat.
That's a lot of damage from the triple T110E4. Definitely cannot guarantee the reset if you keep bleeding hit points like that. Hector now rotating in to get a better angle against Wyroom, but look at this with cheeky flank coming in here from Natawat's mouse. That rear armor of the E4's looking tasty, but if they turn around, Natawat might have bitten off more than they can chew. In fact, it's actually going to trigger the T110E4s to push forwards. Wyroom pushing up way too aggressively here when his teammate already had the reset, and that's forcing the E4s to play more aggressively. Arc Royale overextending though, walks into trouble. Double medium tank presence there means that he is taken out, but Wyroom traded off in the process as the dust begins to settle. We do see the duel between King of Cat and Hisaka end in favor of LJR. And Bench now down 2 tanks, has to get a pick here on the CS63 with 2 of their T110E4s. They're putting some good damage in here. They probably will get the pick. But Natawat does take out Hector in the process. King of Cat down to a one-shot, looking for some cheeky shots into Pasta. Pasta now holding his breath. He's got a lot of hit points coming at him. Ponsky finally gets the finish on Tanakorn. Liwi now moving up to support Pasta, but Pasta just cannot survive against a Centurion AX mouse and CS63. Folks, it's looking really, really bad for the team of Bench. Liwi is now being pushed by a mouse, quite literally. And with 1 tank remaining for the team of Bench, LJR systematically have shut down Bench's push onto the cap circle. And I think at this point we're starting to see LJR on match point.
The most important thing that LJR managed to get right and Bench didn't was this push by the mouse. This push by the mouse meant that LJR could just stop the cap at any time. If the mouse just sits on the cap, they cannot cap out at Bench. And Bench was forced to push out, which was exactly what LJR wanted. With all of their guns in a crossfire, they were able to just completely farm all of those opponents that were pushing out of the factory and trying to kill the solo mouses. It was very easy for LJR to find the isolated kills, while Bench with their slower tanks had to go further distance and find harder tanks to kill. Now it's match point. LJR need just one more game to go to the finals of Asia and win the series against Bench, whilst Bench needed to win all of the games up until game 9 in order to make it through to the finals. If you guys have enjoyed the video so far and want to watch more competitive World of Tanks, then click subscribe.
Them with an IS-7, CS63 from Tanacorn, AAA with Centurion AX, and King of Cat rocking. That's a Leopard, folks. You don't see many of those in Onslaught. So the Leopard is a sniper medium tank, very similar in playstyle compared to the CS63, but generally the CS63 is preferred for that mobility. Bench certainly committing quite heavily onto the K line here. BZ75 and Cent AX pushing up to the artillery zone. Only one of them spotted out though. Arc Royale took an early shot of damage as well. LJR taking the early artillery zone. They do have a strong presence in the middle of the map as well, but look how scattered LJR here. Split across the map. This is something that we really haven't seen a lot from LJR, and this is where they seem to get some of their greatest successes. Wyroon certainly has bled a lot of hit points though, so that's something to factor in. Bench currently leading a good 1,000 hit points over LJR, but most of their tanks are committed on that JK line. LJR have realised this and started rotating them back towards the spawn point, but more importantly they've also started rotating their tanks up into the northern half of the map.
LJR does not rush the cap here on Sand River, not very unga bunga of them to do.
Bench is realising they can't push too further forward, which is understandable. Question is, how much of a presence are they going to keep on the JK line? The thing to note about the artillery zone here in the south is that it is in the low ground, which does tend to favour the northwest spawn more, as if the eastern spawn sits there, they're basically under the gun line. So we're seeing Bench rotating most of their forces back through the 9-0 here. Wyroon less than half hit points. But it's going to be a bit of a long and drawn out game here on Sand River. This was the map pick, Bench, so clearly got a couple of strategies in mind. Striv 103B of Elite so far, I'm assuming hasn't done a lot other than possibly a couple of cheeky sniping shots into Wyroon's BZ75. We're seeing the artillery zone being picked up here in the south, but so far I'm favouring LJR on this match. They do have a stronger presence in the north, and there are two artillery zones there. That being said, Natawat taking a couple of shots, going for that artillery zone, and actually got striked themselves in the process. As the bleed starts to come out from both teams, Bench is still comfortably sitting ahead. Hector, full hit points here in a 60 TP. Couple of good long-range sniping shots here. You can actually see the traces coming out here from the tournament mod. Seeing some of these really impressive long-range sniping shots here. Pasta hitting shots at 400 meters, which is seriously impressive. And likewise, a couple of blind shots coming out from LJR to the rough position of Hisaka here.
Things don't really look good for LJR here, as a lot of their players have bled a lot and is kind of stuck in the map.
Both teams dropping a couple of blind shots, nothing really connecting at this point. LJR still continuing to bleed. Elite, so far haven't really seen a lot from him. Potentially we might see something more in the endgame when we get a push from LJR.
The SDRV has been planted on the K-line in order to stop any pushes coming from there, so one corner of the map controlled by one tank.
So far, both teams relatively chill, all things considered. Actually, you might even say it's the land of chill. Totally not referencing anyone that just said hello in the chat there.
And now LJR decides to make a play. They're rotating all of their tanks to the south, well not all, but their main force to the south, so they can make a push. However, there is an SDRV waiting for them, which is really difficult to deal with.
they want to get the victory, they're going to have to get that cap circle pressure at some point, or they're going to have to try and send their tanks down the K line. That could be disastrous. What the heck happened there? Elite! Hello? He flipped! Ah! What? How? Clip it! Ship it! Post it on Discord! Elite! At the last second of the critical match has flipped his tank! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Okay, well, LJR, they've definitely realised that is a dead Struve 103B, and are very much happy to start pressuring on that JK line. How does that even happen? Bench, I think there'll be some finger pointing going on after that match. Bench is seriously going to have to make a counterplay here to try and respond, and Natawat has to be the pick here. Hit points still not terrible, but Elite, I'm not sure that one's going to be forgiven anytime soon. Ponsky under heavy presence of LJR. Wairu now being pressured by Pastor and Hector. But look at this, Hasaka in the backline, able to get shot after shot. Astronomical down to a 2-shot. Can we get a pick here onto Wairu? We could see a potential comeback, possibly. Yes, we do. Wairu finally taken out. Astronomical still sitting relatively injured. If we get a good poke here from Hector, this could be a take-out elimination on Astronomical. If the high roll does happen, Past will be the first one over the top. Good shot there. Astronomical returns fire, but Triple A takes out Hector. Folks, it's starting to look very dire for Bench. Artillery strike onto Pastor. He does take the pick on Astronomical, but King of Cat shuts down the BZ-75 as support. It now becomes a 2 versus 4. Hasaka trying to duel with a BZ-75. That Inspire can only do so much. King of Cat gets a great shot into Pastor. Pastor taken out. It's a 1 versus 4 here. Hasaka trying to hold on for dear life against Natty. Can he get the kill here and get away with it? Yes, he can, but unfortunately, all hopes have been dashed. Bench eliminated 2-5. LJR move on in the tournament.
That wreck is haunting. I know what it's like to mess up. I know how it's like to mess up in a competitive scenario, but I don't think I've ever had a stakes this high. And as you can see with the match, with the way that LJR has postured, with the amount of time left, there was no other choice. They were going to push that K-line, and the STRV would have been perfect to deal out so much damage and just to shut down the entire push. For the longest time, the HP was equal, and if there was just one extra gun farming 500 damage with the ability every shot, well, I think the result could have been different. But that's how it is in World of Tanks. So now LJR, the Unga Bunga team, has defeated the favorites, you can say, of this tournament, the NA Stars of Bench. And they're moving on to the finals, which will be in the next video. Thanks again to Napalmer for allowing me to use these clips, and for every player that participated in this tournament, because it was so much fun to watch. So thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you for part 2. The finals, LJR versus, well, I'm not going to spoil the team. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.